Alright guys, Killshot Studio back. I had a little bit of extra time tonight, so I decided to go live, and I'm going to be doing a part 2 on the Terra. You guys saw me start last night on stream. So let me put a few paints on my palette and we'll get going. Alright, so last night, one of the last things I did was started picking out some of these flowers along here, and then I shaded them with a nice deep red tone, so I'm going to go through with a bright yellow, and we're just going to pop out those edges. And we're going to try and keep these recesses nice and dark. How's it going, Lion? So I had a little bit of extra time tonight and then realized that this Thursday was Independence Day. So I probably won't be going live then. But we'll go ahead and see if we can finish this guy off tonight. This will be just a little bit of a shorter stream. I don't know if it'll be a full 2 hours, but we'll see where we get to. Since these are creature caster models, I went ahead and decided to break out some cuttlefish colors that I'm going to be trying out a bunch of them for the first time tonight with you guys. And this is their bright yellow I'm currently using to pick out these flowers. Me too. I'm excited to see how this progresses. Oh, are they making oil paints? I would be very interested in trying those. And I only very briefly got to speak to him, and I haven't got to watch any of his live streams to see how his process goes. I would assume it would translate over pretty well, and I know he's very proud of this paint that he made. Very nice. Yeah, I just got mine towards the end of last month. And took just a little bit of pushing to get it because I don't have a huge social following. But I can say I'm super excited to be affiliated with them. They're one of my favorite companies out here. All the guys are super nice and nothing but good things to say about them. Alright. I forgot a few of these little flowers in his armpit area. Alright. So we got those flowers to all pop pretty nice. With that deep red center. Now, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a highlight color for our rock using a little bit of ice yellow, mixing that in with our gray, and we're gonna start touching some of our raised edges here. I still feel like he's missing a little bit. It almost just looks like the stone is zenith old, and I want to bring some more into it. Give me just a second to mix that up, and we'll get going. Alright, so I've mixed up a fun tone here. I don't know if it's going to be our highlight color or not, because it doesn't quite mix, but a nice kind of yellowy red stone that I'm going to throw into a few places on here and have some fun with. Start picking out some of these edges with it. his teeth here. I noticed I missed a flower up here, so I'll have to come back to that one later. Lion, do you have a stream coming up tonight? Painting rock to a high level is almost as bad as trying to paint a dragon to a high level, picking out all the cracks just like you would all the scales. Not quite as tedious, but definitely a ways to go. Anybody just joining in, I've got a nice rock tone that I mixed up using a combination of a cold gray, just a little bit of red, and some ice yellow. I'm just going around picking out a bunch of the rocks. It was looking a little flat before, and this should really help make everything pop. We're not getting every edge here, but we want to get enough to make it stand out. And then here on the back, we'll have to be careful not to go over any of those patches that are going to be moss later on. And you saw me just add a couple lines inside the thigh here on some of these rocks that are in shadow. Not to use this as a highlight, but just in order to pick them out a little more, so if anybody does a full 360 on the model, they can see it's painted. We're getting close to having picked out all of this, and then I'll go ahead and start highlighting up our vines from last night. pick out some of these bigger edges on Rocky's holding. Pick out the knuckles on this hand as well. This isn't adding a lot. It looks like a decent amount in person, but it's actually pretty subtle once it all dries. And I'm pretty sure once I get closer to the end of this paint job, instead of just having a big boulder that he's about to throw, I think I'm gonna add in a little bit of dirt effects and some tufts onto it as well to look like he ripped it straight out of the ground. Because even though this is a commission and I won't get to keep it, I'm still gonna have some fun painting it. So with that done, that looks like it added some much needed contrast and warmth to the piece. Looks a lot more than just like it was Zenithal Prime now, which is what I was going for. Get just a couple more lines right in here. Or I wasn't quite happy with that. Actually, I decided we're gonna take a second to pick out some of the moss that's growing on them before we jump to highlighting our vines. So that way that can dry while we hop over and do our highlights. And for this, I'm going to be using Cuttlefish's Goblin Green, or Goblin Skin. Let's pick these out, which is a nice pale yellow-green color. Might have to get my finished model out here in a second and just compare where I had some of this painted on before. I'm struggling to see some of it on this guy. I know he's got tons of it on him. Yeah, I'm gonna grab my completed Terra. We're gonna use him as our reference here. You'll see the rocks poking out through that moss. How's it going, Wolf Inc? Thank you. Yeah, on this one, I'm trying just a little bit different of a color scheme than on the other one. It'll still be similar, but I wanted it to be different enough and try out some new tones. Got a couple more of them. I might actually go for all 4 seasons. Even though these are the same model, there is a bunch of stuff on them that is reading slightly different, and I don't know why. Might just be the different tones I've used. So I think that was a good base layer for most of our moss. I'm going to go over it one more time. This is a little bit of a brighter color, just to really mark out where all this moss is. If I did that, it'd be 100% out. Mine was just meetings and mental exhaustion. Oh yeah, that'll wear on you just as much. Today wasn't quite as bad around where me and Wolf live, but tomorrow it's supposed to get really hot again, getting back into the mid-90s. So those will be some pretty draining days coming up shortly. Put just a little more of our orangey yellow color onto the palette and go ahead and pick out some of those flowers I missed last night. Ooh. Yeah, I don't envy you there for a minute. When I was doing these last night, I knew there had to have been more of these flowers I missed. remembered painting a whole lot more of them the first time. They just never popped up. Let's see how close we got. So far I missed 5. That's 6. Oh yeah, I definitely would not wish that upon you. Alright, we are up to 8 missed flowers now. About to be 9. Alright, so after I pick those out, I'm going to go back and some of these flowers that I highlighted up a little too light. So I'm just going to add some of the orange back into them. Not add much paint here at all, because I don't want to take away these highlights or cover up that darker red tone I got in the center, but just a couple little touches. It doesn't look quite so washed out. Probably not. Because beforehand I had almost a gray-white tone onto it, and then I added in these highlights here with this reddish-yellow color to bring it back into rock. Because before, well, the other one I have is just primed black, but I was gonna say before it just kind of gave off the zenithal look, and I'm actually pretty happy with where the rock's sitting currently. But before I got to this point, I went from a standard cold gray, and then I brought it up twice by adding in a lighter gray and then some white, and then I shaded it back down with some brown tones, and then I hit it with a little bit of wash towards the end of the night last night. Then anything that got kind of sloppy, I dry brushed over lightly, and then today I picked out a chunk of these edges and then added in this rock tone. So all this could change before I decide I'm done with it, but that's where I'm at for now. I'm gonna make a big jump here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick out this little guy that's coming out of his stomach. We're gonna make him a reddish orange tone. And I will have to be careful while I'm doing this to not make him stand out too much and draw our eye away from the rest of the model. I'm just going to go ahead and base all of him red at the moment. And then a little bit later, I'll come back to drop in some orange and yellowy tones for a little critter. Alright, now over all of the moss that we just painted that bright yellow-green color, I'm going to tone that down just a little bit with some Camo Shade by Citadel. And it's going to darken it up pretty good, and then just get some of that crunch that moss has to it. Dog hairs floating on my rock monster. Thank you for that. I was adding in just a little bit of paint here that I missed. I was not looking at my camera, so I appreciate the heads up. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry for just a second, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a lighter green tone here, and we'll go ahead and start highlighting upper vines. actually, what would be more beneficial right before I do that, I'm going to add some of our red shade back into these new flowers to make them uniform with the other ones on the model. And then we'll jump to the vine highlights. This will take about 30 seconds to get done. This is just to add in our nice center to these flowers. And it'll turn them just a little bit orange compared to the yellow they were at before. The one at the very top under his rock. All right. Yeah, so on his face, there's a couple things I'll do to make that pop that I haven't done yet. So once I pick out the vines, that's going to help a lot. And then I'll show you an example with my other one. Added in a green glow effect to the eyes and then pick the teeth out just a little more. So we're going to go ahead and try to do that as well. Alright, so for these highlights, I'm going to be using another yellow-green tone that is a bit darker than the one we used for the moss. This is Worm Green by P3. Using a small brush here. I'm just trying to accent the detail. And I'm working with a pretty thin paint. So I might have to come and do a couple layers here to build up our color. It is taking after one, but I could definitely make it more vibrant. Not doing anything too crazy here. Just going for a nice slightly above tabletop standard miniature. Something that somebody across the table would get excited to see, but definitely not going for any medals either. Picking out his little leaf bracelet. And then I'll have to do the same to the other side. And then his armpit vines. I'll work my way down his left leg, and then I'm going to add in a little more yellow. We'll do a second pass of highlights. This time just on the upraised surfaces. Trying to really make these ones pop out to show our light source. Probably varnish this guy if I'm going to keep touching his big rock too, so I don't start rubbing paint off. I'll have to do that after the stream. Can I turn up the mic volume for my voice or for the music? My voice. Yeah, I should be able to. Alright, does that sound any better? About the same. Okay. My mic volume is turned up all the way, so I'll probably have to mess with my gain settings here in a bit. Alright, so I've got these vines picked out pretty well now. I'm going to head back to our little fox creature coming out of his stomach. I'm gonna go ahead, grab out some bright orange, and we're gonna start highlighting him up just a little bit. Starting with a combination of this and our red. And then, depending on how that looks, we might add in some of our golden yellow, or we might just leave him orange. Alright, so I'm just going over him again just to kind of punctuate that color a little more. This is a mixture, but it's still favoring the red quite a bit. So I'll bring this in, making sure to cover all of them. And then, while that's still wet, I'm going to bring in some of our orange tone. Start mixing that on him just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to let our little fox sit for just a second to dry, and then I'm going to grab a slightly smaller brush, and then with a mix of our orange and golden yellow, I'm going to add in little hairs to them. So while we're waiting for him to dry, I'm going to go back to our moss. And I've got an even paler, slightly lighter green. I'm going to add in there. Almost like a mint green. I'm gonna mix a few of these tones actually. The mint green seems a little extreme right out of the pot, so we go back into our initial goblin green first and do some dots just to bring back our original tone after the wash. And you can see that leaves us with a nice variation of our darker tone and lighter tone. And after I do this clump up at the top here, I'm going to go ahead and do a 50-50 mix of our goblin green that I'm using right now and the new minty tone. We'll see how that looks. Worst case, I'll just paint over it. Right, so this is pretty bright, so I'm going to use it sparingly. But let's see how it looks flat on here. That's not too bad at all. Minty green earth monster. Right. Now let's go back to our fox. I'm going to do some of our pure orange here. To do another layer of highlight. Making sure to emphasize his ears and cheeks. And the general shapes of his arm and paw. Alright, we'll let him sit for just another second. And all of those flowers that I added in tonight, I'm going to go back to our bright yellow from earlier and pick out the edges of those. I'm not going to mess too much with the base. I need to speak to the guy I'm doing the commission for a little more about that, to see how he wants all of his dirt bases across everybody to be the same, or if it's okay for them to be individual. So we're going to jump back to our fox. And then we'll do our glowing effect and probably call this guy done for now. I'm going to go ahead and mix up a 50-50 mixture of our orange and golden yellow. With some very tiny scratches on the cheeks. We're going to bring in some little hair textures. Not sure how well this is going to translate onto the camera because of how small they are, but they will be there. Right. Let's look at my other one here. Right. So now I'm going to get our eye sockets white so we can get that nice glow going. It's going to look a little shocking on camera, but it will work. And I am saturating the entire socket and just a little bit around the outside of it to get the full glow going. And then I'm going to add in a very bright green on top of this. That'll make it pop. I'm going to grab another one of our cuttlefish colors here. Go with mutagenic green, which is a tone I have not tried out yet. But it looks like it'll do the job pretty nice. Save that and then proceed to splatter paint all over myself. Nice neon green. Love shaking bottles that aren't quite closed. See if this white's dry. And then if it's dry, we'll go ahead. Okay, it is not quite dry, so we'll give that just another second. I'm going to go ahead and do my first pass of green. And we want to cover all of that white. Give them the nice glowing green eyes. And this looks to be like a borderline fluorescent paint, so that's really popping in there. That's all right. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pick his teeth out just a little bit better here. I really want those to stand out because it's his face. And just another layer of highlight here. couple little bottom rock teeth I'm picking out as well. There we have it. Besides the base, this guy is pretty well painted up to finished product. But before I end for the night, I'm going to look at some of the tufts I have and see if any of those would be fun to add on to his big rock. Okay, I think we can do this for sure. So I've got a little bit of this Sterling Mud texture paint from Citadel. And I've got a couple colored tufts here. I've got a greener, and then I've got a more dead looking color. So I'm going to add some of this mud on to a few areas. And then I'm going to throw some of these tufts in there as well. This stuff's got just a little bit of sandy grit to it as well, which is why I decided to use it. I don't want too much because I don't want to ruin our nice paint job. This stuff is notorious for murdering brushes, so if you use it, make sure you rinse your brush out very well. And change your paint water out after your session is done. Alright, I'm going to grab my glue and some tweezers. We'll go ahead and place a couple of these tufts. Alright, so I got the first one. Go ahead and stick it right near some of that mud that we just added. Push it in there. add one of our deader looking tufts to the side of our big rock. I don't want to add too much and oversell the effect, but I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and stick one right inside this little crevice, but fluff it out just a little bit. I think I'm gonna add one more over on this side. Right, then I'm gonna add in one more tuft right here at the top of the rock. On the front, it'll look like this. Around it, he's got the nice green tuft coming out of our mud. Spread that one out just a little more. And I think I'm going to call him done. Like I said, I still need to talk to my client to see how he's wanting the basing done. So I'll probably do that off camera. But next up, we're gonna have several human characters that have some pretty crazy personalities I'm gonna have a lot of fun with. But this is gonna be the end of my stream for the evening, so let's see who we can bounce over to. Hold on just a second. Alright. Buffering real bad here, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stop the stream for now, but thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you again later. Have a good night.